Hi everyone, this is Marianne and welcome to my channel. In this video, I will be sharing with you how I made the side-loading cash pouches for a disc-bound cash envelope system that I will be using for myself. I used two different kinds of paper. One of them is tracing paper. I have printed out on the tracing paper the name of the categories that I want to budget for, and there's also a cutting guide for each category. The specific tracing paper that I used is the brand called Durer, and it's 90 to 95 GSM, and it comes in US letter. I purchased this from a store here in my city, and the store is called Master Square. Here are more or less all of the categories that I want to budget for so far, and later on I will explain what each of them are for. To cut these down to size, I just used a box cutter, a metal ruler, and a cutting mat. I have sized the cash pouches to align with my preferred page size for my planner, which is the A5 Slim, which means that the end product should be 210 millimeters tall and 95 millimeters wide. This panel of tracing paper is 83 millimeters wide and 209 millimeters tall. And later on, I will show you how everything comes together to form the size that I want. This panel of tracing paper will be adhered to another panel of paper. This time, it's just white paper that's 120 GSM. Together, they are 95 millimeters wide and 209 millimeters tall. Because when the lamination is factored in, the finished product will be 95 millimeters wide and 210 millimeters tall, and you will see that later. Now, to make sure that the two panels of paper don't move around when I'm placing them inside the laminating pouch, I just put a teeny tiny dot of this Zig-Kuretake two-way glue on two of the corners. This glue goes on light blue but dries clear. And then I just cut off the excess paper at the bottom. And I have thought this through for several days. Here are my notes for it in the section in my planner called Planner Plans. I have here a list of my categories that will each have one pouch, one side-loading pouch, and the measurements for the components of the pouch, as well as the materials that I'm considering using. In my experience, it is always best when I think things through for several days first and write down notes for it. That way I end up with a smooth execution. And later on, when I'm putting everything together, you will see the reason for the specific measurements, like I said earlier. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and trim down all of the tracing paper panels. And after all of the tracing paper panels are cut down to the proper size, I can now secure them to the other paper panel in the way that I showed earlier, and then cut off the excess at the bottom. Now everything is ready to be laminated. I'm using this basic laminator that I purchased from Shopee. The link will be in the description box. For the laminating pouches, I actually bought a pack of 100 laminating pouches because it's cheaper to buy in bulk. I bought the coif laminating film. I chose the size that in our country we call long. The long size is our legal size in my country, and it's 8.5 by 13 inches, which is an inch shorter than the US legal, which is 8.5 by 14 inches. The reason why I got long is so that I can put more pieces in without wasting too much film. As you can see here, 3 of these fit into one laminating pouch. If I had gotten the A4 or the US letter, I would only be able to put in 2 of these, and there will be a larger piece of laminating material going to waste. And then it's just a matter of putting the pouch through the laminator. Just wait for it to go through while guiding it at the front and at the back, just so that it doesn't bend down. And that is it. Now to cut, I will be using my basic paper trimmer. I also bought this online several months ago. It's very affordable. I will link it down below. And for the long edges, I simply cut off all the lamination without leaving an excess, because on the right edge, that should be open because that's where the money will go in. And for the left edge, that's actually just one sheet of paper, so there's no need for the extra lamination to seal the edges. However, for the top and the bottom, I left behind an excess lamination of 5 millimeters. And as you can see, the finished product is exactly 210 millimeters tall and 95 millimeters wide, the exact same dimensions as my planner pages. And the top and the bottom needs that excess lamination because those parts need to be completely sealed to form the pouch. Now I'm just going to laminate all of the rest and then cut them down to size. My laminator can take only up to US letter widths and there isn't much room for anything wider, so it's crucial to feed the lamination through straight, like not even slightly diagonal, or eventually the pouch will catch on the corners like what happened here. But there is a lever at the back of the laminating machine that allows me to loosen the roller so I can pull out the lamination. I just made sure that the machine is turned off when I do this. And as you can see, that one cash pouch is ruined because it got exposed to heat much longer than is necessary, so the lamination is warped. I just ended up cutting that off and I made a new one. I was careful while laminating the rest of the cash pouches. And now finally it's time to cut. And this was really the easiest part. Now here I printed out the tracing paper panel for that pouch that I ruined earlier, and I'm just going to cut that down to size, secure it to the base panel using the Kuretake glue, and then cut off the excess at the bottom. At this point, I also printed out a cover material on tracing paper. I printed this on a slightly lighter opacity, and this one at the right uses the original 100% opacity, but I think I prefer the lighter printout, so that's what I ended up using. I just used a piece of tissue to dab on the leftover wet ink from the black parts of the printout. Printing on tracing paper always takes a longer time to dry, and I don't really need the black parts to be completely black, so this just speeds up my process a little bit. This artwork is from Unsplash. Unsplash is a website that shares high-resolution photographs so that we can download them and use them, but only for personal use, not for commercial purposes. I'm just going to use this cash envelope for myself. I will link this particular photo on Unsplash in the description box, but there are so many others that are just as beautiful. And whenever you download from Unsplash, you are given the option to thank the artist. I suggest you go ahead and send your thanks to the artist as often as you download each artwork. And then I just cut down these two sheets to size and then I laminated them. I was able to maximize the laminating pouch for these three items that need to be laminated at this point. And if there's going to be an excess in the lamination, I make sure to cut off the excess before feeding the pouch into the laminating machine so that I can still use the excess lamination for a future project. And then it's time to cut these down again. For the covers, since I laminated only one sheet of tracing paper for each, I didn't need the extra lamination around the edge to seal it. So I cut it right down to the edge of the tracing paper. In my opinion, if you're just laminating one sheet of paper, there is no need for that edge. And if you don't need to make your project waterproof, there is no need to have that edge either. Now for the external cover, I want to use this cover that I currently have on the binder that houses my side reminder tabs and my functional stickers and some sticky notes. I have a video or a couple of videos about my side reminder tabs and as well as a video about how I made my functional stickers, and I will link them down below. I don't really need a very good cover for this since I just toss this around on my desk, although I should someday figure out how to store these better, maybe in a supplemental binder or something like that. But anyway, for now, these external covers will be used for my cash envelope system. I bought these covers on Shopee. This was made for the A5 discbound, but I just trimmed down the excess width in order to make it the right size for my A5 Slim. I will link the covers below. And then the next task would be, of course, to punch the holes on everything using a template that you can see here and my single hole punch and a pair of scissors. This is always how I punch anything for my planner that is either plastic or laminated, because the Happy Planner punch that I have, the blue one for the classic sized, cannot punch plastic. It can only punch paper. So this way, this method that I use for punching plastic really just works, and it eliminates the stress of punching with that Happy Planner punch. Now, I did buy a set of 24mm rose gold metal discs from my usual seller on Shopee, which I will link in the description box. And to save on shipping, I also threw in another set of the hard plastic covers made for the A5, the frosted plastic one, but I will not be using these for now. These are just extra covers just in case. The discs come in a set of 10 and I only need 8, so I have 2 extra. And then from here on out, it's just a matter of putting everything on the discs. The cash envelopes, or actually the cash pouches, don't really have to go in any particular order since I can keep shuffling them around. And maybe I'll just put on the front those accounts that are closest to the due date. The final component is, of course, the tracking sheets. We need the tracking sheets for each category, and I have printed them out right here. And in order not to get confused, I even printed the name of the category right at the top, but I'll cut that off later. To cut each sheet down to size, I'm once again using my cutting mat and a metal ruler and a box cutter to get the most precise cut. And one thing I learned 8 years ago when I was on the cash envelope system in the personal sized Filofax was that the envelopes themselves should not contain the tracking information in a permanent way. If you watch that video, which I will link down below, you will see that the amounts and the due dates for each category are printed right on the envelope, and that didn't work out for me on the long term because as the months rolled by, there were changes in the amount and the due dates. So I had to change them, and it did not look good if you just cross it out on the cash envelope. So it is best to have a separate tracking sheet for each category. It can be either a separate sheet of paper that you put on the disc right in front of or right behind the actual cash envelope it is pertaining to, or just put sticky notes right on the cash envelope itself. What I'm doing here is that these sheets that I am cutting will become the removable sticky notes for each category. That is why I am comfortable to label each tracking sheet with the month. Because when January is done, I can just remove the sheets and replace them with the sheets labeled February, and probably with an adjusted amount and due date if needed. Okay, now all of the sheets are cut and ready to be stuck onto the front of each cash pouch. I will be using this Zig Kuretake two-way glue, which can be either permanent or removable depending on if you wait a while before putting things together. To make the bond permanent, you just have to stick the papers together while the glue is still wet and blue. But when the glue is dry and clear, that gives a temporary bond which makes the paper removable and repositionable. I want to make these removable, so I will lay down 2 lines of glue and put that aside and wait for that to dry before placing them onto the cash pouches. I'm putting on the glue not at the top because the top will be cut off eventually. The top is just a reminder for me for which cash pouch to stick these on. Now that the glue is dry and clear, as you can see, I can now finally adhere them to the cash pouches that they were made for. I just cut off the top with a label and then stick them onto the right pouch. And that's what I will be doing for the rest of them. And we are done. These are the finished cash pouches for my cash envelope system. These are side loading cash pouches. Let me show you what are actually on the tracking sheets. Here is my cash pouch for gasoline. Because I hardly ever go out, I will only be needing to gas up 400 pesos every week. And there is a superscript here, it's the letter S. S means it's a soft budget, meaning I can change it to become smaller or bigger depending on the need and the availability of the funds. Below, I just have a list of where I have also put in the same information. I will be placing the same information on my tracking box on the daily pages of my planner and also on my main financial tracker file that's actually an Excel file on my computer. And once the cash pouch has cash inside, I can easily see that it does have something in it, which I think is more convenient for me compared with if I used actual paper instead of tracing paper. I do not really like this front panel to be completely transparent because that would be a little bit too visible in my opinion. But using tracing paper is just a good compromise between 100% visibility and zero visibility of whether or not there is something inside. The next category that I have to budget for is my maintenance medication. Now this has a superscript of the letter H, which means it's a hard amount. I cannot change that for any reason. The medication needs to be bought on schedule. And here are the other places in which I will be writing down the same information. Next is the category for medication that is prescribed to me for treatment. I don't have an exact amount yet because right now I am not being treated for anything, but that will be a hard budget as well. And I have ample space to write down the information, and the cross references are at the bottom as well. Here's the category for the money I need to pay back to my sister. This one has no specific due date but needs to be paid back as soon as possible. However, I can only make payments in smaller increments, and this is what I will use to budget and track the payments. The next account is for toiletries and self-care, for my Etsy store and notebooks. Really, these are just supplies that I need to run these two side hustles that I have. Next is savings and then supplies for my planner. I need to keep that in check. Next is food. Now this is not food for my everyday, that is already provided for me. This refers to food that I want to buy from time to time for my family, like ice cream or cake or something, anything aside from the day-to-day food. Next is tech supplies and maintenance, like if I need a new cable or need a new battery for something or things like that. The other categories that I have are books that I want to buy for my personal use and some resources that I need to spend for my academic researches, other office supplies, and I do have a pouch in there somewhere for emergencies. And the last account is the occasional splurge, something completely unnecessary but which I have a little bit of extra money for. I put that in the back part because I still have obligations to settle first. The splurge for now will be my reward for when I am already done fulfilling my obligations. And these are all of the things that I have to budget for beginning in January. And the beauty of the discount is that I can just add more pouches as I realize that I need more. And I can also take out the pouches from here and put them in my planner or in my bag if necessary, but I don't really see myself doing that. I plan to just keep this at home inside my planner. One last thing that I am unsure about is if I will be putting tabs on each of the pouches, similar to the tabs that I already have on my dividers on my planner here. I have a video of how I made these dividers that are laminated and how I made these tabs, and I will link that video down below. But for the cash pouches in my cash envelope system, I'm not sure if I need the tabs. I can just make them in the future if I realize that I need them, but for now, this is going to be it. No tabs. This is what I have to start with, and I'm looking forward to making good use of this. Now, when it comes to the security of the cash, will they accidentally spill out? It is not very likely, as I do not intend to take this out of my room. I will keep this inside my drawer like I said. And if I ever transfer one or two of them into my planner already has a travel cover that closes with two snaps, so the cash will not fall out. I will link a video of the snap travel cover in the description box. So for now, I will not worry about the cash accidentally falling out. If in case it does fall out, or if I need to secure this even better, I'll think of something. So, well, that is it. This is what I will be using starting January. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you're able to get some helpful ideas that you can use when you make your own cash envelope system. My next video will be of me making my daily planner pages for January, and it will be the day on 2.6 pages that I'm going to be trying out. So please make sure that you're subscribed to my channel and that you have clicked on the notification bell so that you will get an alert as soon as that video is up. Thanks for watching. Bye.